Good day, good afternoon, officially 3 minutes past noon. Look at that. Happy Tuesday afternoon. It's Chris. I'm here at Second Glass doing Cellar chats for their weekly wine flights. And you know what? We never not have fun here. So obviously we're going to have some fun. This week we're doing something a little different. Something at least different than we've done before. We are doing a little deep dive into Nero d'Avola, but maybe not necessarily the way you've always had it. We're going to kick it off with, a great producer from the classic area in Italy for Nero d'Avola, which is Sicily. This is Morgante. This is their Bianco Nero d'Avola. So white Nero d'Avola. We'll get to more on that in a little bit. And then we're going to travel down under. We're going to hit up Delinquente out in the Riverland for their Rosato bottling of Nero d'Avola. And we're going to wrap it up with the more classically styled Nero d'Avola, but from a less classic region, the Stouman Nero d'Avola, which comes from the Mendocino County. Very excited about getting into that. Actually, I'm excited about all of these. So Nero d'Avola, this is a grape variety native to Sicily. Particularly, you find it really all over Sicily. It's probably, I believe it is the most widely planted and produced grape variety on the island of Sicily. But the primary regions are in the southern, basically southwestern part, and then the western part of the islands. And Nero to some extent has been a somewhat overlooked grape variety until the last decade or so. It was always highly regarded for being potential to make great wines or easily ripening quality structured wines without a lot of effort, and it often found its way into the bulk market. It was actually the primary grape that for a long time the Sicilians would basically fill up tankers and send up north to different regions of either Italy or even France, although they'll probably deny it if you ask them. But there is a long history of that because, Sicily is warm and dry and arid. Not a lot of pest problems, not a lot of mildew pressure, so you can, consistently get ripe fruit and a lot of it, and you don't have to worry about it, basically being destroyed by a frost or random humidity or who knows what happens. Anyways, so it has been kind of one of those grapes that really filled that void. Now the downfall of that is that most people didn't take it seriously, which was a real shame because it has potential. And then along came some really great producers. I know I'm going to miss some, but the ones that always stand out in my mind are Giusto Occhipinti and his friends over at Coast Winery, who really kind of re-championed Nero d'Avola in the early 90s, and have become kind of a cult producer. And then the more obvious, his niece, Arianna Occhipinti over at Occhipinti Winery on Sicily, who, really is championing Frappato as her primary grape that she's really fallen in love with. Another native grape of Sicily, but she also makes some incredible Nero d'Avola. Second Glass happens to have a little bit of it laying around, the Sicagno. Such great wines. But that being said, outside of, a handful of really great producers, it still is kind of relegated to being kind of basic, for lack of a better term. But we are going to taste some really fun ones that are anything but basic and maybe just a little different. So starting out, like I said, Morgante, their Bianco Nero d'Avola. So 100% Nero d'Avola, pressed directly off the skins, made into a white wine. We actually featured this not that long ago. And it was such a great wine. And now that we've got warm, beautiful weather more consistently, so to speak, we thought we would bring it back in. Man, this wine. I remember, so the last time we did this, I tasted this wine. It was the first time I had tasted it while doing the video. And I was really impressed at how incredibly delicious this wine is. It's so fresh, so vibrant. It has this really gorgeous, textural element to it. This comes from the volcanic soils on Sicily. Sicily's mostly volcanic soils for the most part. I think there's maybe some limestone in there somewhere, but my brain doesn't. Yeah, limestone, clay, and there's volcanic soil kind of basically all over the island. Wow. Palate is excellent. Mineral lace citrus. Lots of bright lemon. A little bit of like a sea spray kind of characteristic. Again, we're on an island. You're going to get that influence there. But just such a fun wine, and a style that, like, I mean, outside of, white Pinot Noir, not a lot of people do still wines that are what we would call Blanc de Noirs, where they press the fruit, get all the juice out, but don't leave contact with the skins. So we're taking red grapes and we're turning it into a white wine. We do it with rosé, where we turn it into a pink wine, and, you just don't see this as often. And I honestly, if I had the answer as to why, I couldn't tell you. Probably has something to do with the fact that if you're growing red grapes and you're doing all that process, you might as well go ahead and make a red wine, because you're going to make more money off of a red wine. The perceived idea is that red wine is considered better, so you're willing to pay more for it, whereas a white wine you have to sell for less, even if the work was the same. That would be a good reason. But if more red wines pressed to be white wine tasted like this, I think that we would be on board with paying a little extra, as long as it, the proof was in the glass, if you will. That was a rather big pour. Anyways, again, that's the first wine on the flight this week for Nero d'Avila. This is the Morgante Bianco direct pressed white Nero d'Avila. Then we're moving off to Australia. So definitely not the place you think of when you think of Nero d'Avila, although I think you might need to. That was one sentence sounds like two. You might need to, because many parts of southern Australia are climatically quite similar to Sicily. I mean, it's warm, arid, kind of dry, desert-like areas, capable of growing really incredible fruit. Nero d'Avila is a grape that really can handle heat and sunshine well, which is why it is, at least that's why it's planted here in the Riverland, which is a, historically very warm spot. Delinquente works primarily with Italian grape varieties and also some Portuguese grape varieties. Basically, grape varieties that do well with lots of sunshine, little rainfall, and, are adapted to the climate that they happen to be in. Here it is made as a rosé. Now I wouldn't say, I'll be honest, I don't know how many Nero d'Avila rosés are available on the market from Sicily. I'm sure there are some. I can't think of anything specific. So this is definitely a style that is maybe not, we'll call it not classic or tradition of Sicily. Same with the white. I don't know how many white ones are made in Sicily, but I can't imagine it's a very long list. Generally speaking, goes to red wine. But here, this has become one of my all-time favorite rosés for the value. Every year, I think it just crushes. It's kind of drinks like strawberries and cream in the best way possible and without being sweet. I know when you hear strawberries and cream, you think sweet, but that is not what you get here. You get tart, wild strawberry characteristics, a beautiful roundness. Again, that clean minerality that I think Nero just shows really well. And one of the other things, and if you've watched these videos before, or been in here or seen me do a tasting, I'm a fan of rosé that is not so delicate. Apparently I'm on a roll today. Delicately colored. I mean, I think rosés that have that very classic onion skin are beautiful, and those are exceptional wines, and nothing against them. But something about rosés that have a little more color, they tend to have a little more texture, a little more mouthfeel. They feel less thin in a way, I guess you could say. For me personally, I always have an affinity for these wines, and I'm always trying to champion them because I think they get overlooked. I think most people look at them and go, oh, that's kind of a bright pink. It's probably going to be sweet, which is pretty much never the case, just so you all know. Very rarely is that the case. And if it's sweet, someone will tell you it's going to be sweet. This is totally dry. Again, so fresh. It matches this beautiful, beautiful, almost cloudless blue sky day that we're having here in Wilmington. And hopefully the rest of the week, which I think we will, have the same weather so you can come out to second glass and try this amazing flight. Again, that is the second wine in the flight. Man, that's pretty. Lots of wild strawberry. A little bit of citrus kind of brightness. And that beautiful creaminess on the finish. I will mention the first two wines are all stainless steel. So again, that's Delinquente. They're Pretty Boy Nero d'Avola Rosato. If you ever see these labels out, Delinquente always has really fun names for all their wines. And it kind of harkens back to Australian culture where basically nobody goes by their name. Everybody has nicknames. So he has come up with nicknames to describe all of his wines. And Pretty Boy, I mean, this is a Pretty Boy rosé. It is great. That's my, Eddie from Christmas Vacation there for you, Anyways, moving on. I'll stop rambling. Over to Martha Stouman, or I think it's Stouman. I'm sorry, Martha, if I'm butchering your name. I've been a big fan of these for a long time. I think that she's an incredible winemaker. I have always liked what she's doing. And she has a really great backstory. She spent time in Sicily. She worked for Giusto Occupanti, who I referenced earlier at Kos. She speaks or spoke fluent Italian. And there's some really great interviews with her talking about her time there. And she was just like this, little American female who was over there trying to do all this work that traditionally was not done by females. And she kind of had to prove her point that she was basically, for lack of a better term, a complete badass, and continues to be that. And makes really delicious wines out in California, sourcing fruit from several different places. But I think the Nero d'Avola, possibly for her, I mean, I would have to ask her. I've never asked her this, but I imagine probably holds a little bit of a more special place in her heart where, she spent this time in Sicily and really fell in love with the work she was doing and was really, Giusto took a liking to her and really showed her along. And I believe that is what primarily inspired her to do what she does in California, where she's making really great wines with a little bit of a focus on Italian grape varieties. And Nero d'Avola has kind of been her signature grape. I mean, she makes several different wines. She makes some great entry-level things called post-flirtation. I mean, she makes a whole host of wines, but I will venture to say the Nero d'Avola is kind of her flagship. Now, I don't know the exact vineyard that this comes from. I would guess that it's probably from the Fox Hill Vineyard, which is up in Mendocino. It is the primary area for a lot of great Italian grapes. I know that there is a decent amount of Nebbiolo and Nero d'Avola, I think, grown there. Correct me if I could be very wrong on that, but regardless, it doesn't really matter. Natively fermented. This does get fermented in barrel, aged in barrel for about, I want to say 14, 15 months, give or take. No, 18 months. 18 months in barrel. So 12 months on the fine lees, so you get that really beautiful texture, and then it's racked off and then put back in barrel for another 6 months before being bottled, unfined, unfiltered. Oh, wow. It is like a big old glass of beautiful potpourri, kind of spiced blackberry, a touch of herbaceous kind of lavender, violet characteristics. It is so pretty on the nose. I mean, look at the color of this. Such a kind of ruby purple-esque, kind of in that middle ground of not necessarily red, but not really inky black either. Wow. Great texture, great mouthfeel. And one of those things I talk about sometimes is, when we talk about New World wines, we're always, for the most part, we always want to talk about how, they're really trying to make wines like the Old World, or they're influenced by this place. And they definitely are, because that is where these grapes come from. But what we often forget to talk about, and I make a point of talking about, is that there is a very distinct California-ness to this wine. It drinks like California. It feels like California sunshine. It's got a little bit of that high elevation. We're in Mendocino, fairly high elevation area. I feel some ocean influence here. That Pacific, that cold water influence. But at the same time, this smells and drinks like Nero d'Avola. So it smells and tastes like the grape and the place, which, rarely do we talk about those in conjunction. We usually talk about one or the other. And I think that's what makes these wines so amazing to me, is that they always tend to hit on all the points that you want to see them hit on. in a very graceful way. This one's exceptional. I'm pretty sure I'm just going to put the cork in it and take the bottle home. So let's just recap real quick. We're doing Nero d'Avola this week. New World, Old World. Who cares? They're so delicious, every one of them. So get out, have some flights, have some bites. Enjoy your time, enjoy your friends. Again, the flight is Morgante Bianco, Nero d'Avola. To start from Sicily, rounding into the middle spot, Delinquente, the pretty boy Rosato. I mean, just for the label alone, who doesn't want to drink that? Super fun. And then we round it out with Martha Stouman's Nero d'Avola from Mendocino County. Excellent, excellent wines all around. Everyone, be safe, be kind. I'll see y'all next week. Bye.